Hi, my name is Dave Gloria, and this is my sport and exercise psychology critical assignment for Kinesiology 552 here at Cal Baptist University. My target population was the Heritage Christian Boys varsity basketball team. Reasons why I chose this population: as the sports medicine director and athletic trainer, I spend a lot of time with these boys in season, out of season, with injury evaluation and rehabilitation. I'm also observe practice on a daily basis. I'm at all their home games. I travel with them on their away games. And all this lends to building relationships with this group. This allows me to listen to them, to discuss, talk with them. It also allows me to pray with them, as well as share some of my high school experiences with them as an athlete, and to also share the Word of God and the gospel with some of these guys. A few scholarly sources that were important to my population was one article that discussed goal orientation and motivational climate. We went over two different type of athletes: ego orientation athletes and task orientation athletes. And so a couple things about each of those athletes. Ego orientation athletes, they are more concerned with the goal than the process. They are constantly monitoring their performance in contrast or comparison to other athletes. Their ability to exercise sometimes hinges on the presence or absence of pain, how much pain they're in, or how much discomfort they're in. And because of those reasons or those factors, these are candidates who are more likely to drop out of exercise programs, or in my case, the rehabilitation process. So as an athletic trainer, it's very important for me to be able to identify the ego orientation athlete so that I can come up with creative ways to keep them motivated to continue the rehab process. We have task orientation athletes, and these athletes are focused more on the process than the goal. Though they want to achieve the goal, they are committed to the daily grind, so to speak, and really mastering what it is that they're doing at the time. Most of the time, they are putting maximal effort into whatever it is they're doing to accomplish their tasks, and they're more concerned about improving their performance from day to day on a daily basis. Once again, as the athletic trainer, it is my job to create an environment that is going to help them succeed, whether ego orientation or task orientation athlete. Another scholarly source that was important to my population was the discussion on theory of reasoned action and the theory of planned behavior. The theory of reasoned action is more concerned with behavior and the factors that influence our behavior. So for instance, I can have an athlete who comes into the rehab room and is eager to begin rehab, but might be fearful of the expectations that will be set for them. And this can hinder their attitude, which can hinder their rehab process. Where theory of planned behavior is more concerned with perceived behavioral control and realistic expectations. So as an athletic trainer, I need to be able to identify my athletes once again, and to be able to set up realistic goals on a daily basis that my athletes will be able to meet, so that they won't be hindered in their thinking, that they won't be able to live up to the expectation that is set for them. Realistic planning and realistic goal setting is the key here. Another scholarly source that was important to my population was the discussion on self-determination theory. The things that really stuck out to me were the behaviors when it pertained to the SDT. And three factors were autonomy, competence, and relatedness. Autonomy is giving my athletes the sense that they have a say in what they're doing in the rehab process, giving them a sense of, hey, I'm part of the decision-making process, and I do that strategically. I lay out a list of exercises they can do. Which one do you want to do today? I let them choose. That gives them that sense of autonomy. Competence, simply making those goals, those expectations and those goals, something that they can achieve. This brings that desirable outcome. which brings them that sense of competence. And then relatedness is making sure the environment that they're in my rehab room or wherever we're rehabbing them, making sure that they feel like they belong. And again, that's my job, to set that tone and create that environment. This brings a sense of satisfaction to the athlete. It produces intrinsic motivation and increases their level of motivation, ultimately to stay in and complete that rehab process. Levels of motivation, we'll switch gears now. Let's talk about the physical environment. Time management is a big deal at the high school level. Time is very limited in the high school level. I only have a certain amount of time after school, at lunch, or before school to get in rehab. And so I have to manage my time very wisely because I'm the only athletic trainer, and at times I will be rehabbing up to 6 or 7 athletes in one season, which is quite a bit for one AT. So time management and not stressing the athlete out with that. I need to make sure that, hey, I'm in control of that. We set things up. All they have to do is show up, and they don't need to manage the time, so to speak. They just are given the time and they show up. Compatible environment to exercise is the other strong point that relates to my line of work and my population. As you can see in the slide here, there's 2 women, one at a park, one at home. There's a picture of an athletic club. And then there's a picture of a gentleman shooting baskets in a chair with a boot in a basketball gymnasium. And I often will bring my athletes into the gymnasium, my population being a basketball team, to rehab in a different setting. This helps create and increase their level of motivation because they're in an environment where they're used to thriving, and they are an environment which they feel very comfortable in. And we'll talk a little bit more about that, but these are factors that will increase levels of motivation. Social environment is very important as well. Social support is huge. As the AT, I am the instrumental support. I'm the hands-on. I'm the teacher. I'm the instructor. I am there for them every second of the day that we're together. I also bring that emotional support, the words of encouragement, the praise when they reach or exceed a goal. But it's also important that they have their families behind them, that they have their coaches and staff behind them, that they have even faculty and their teammates behind them. So I am very proactive at sending out emails and texts. Hey, coach so-and-so, make sure you encourage your athlete. They just reached this milestone. Faculty, hey, I know you have this person in your class. Can you give them a word of encouragement? It's very important. And then, of course, the family. I will email mom and dad, hey, just want to let you know your son accomplished this, and we're here in the rehab process. So that's social support, very important in increasing and heightening that motivation to continue. We have exercise barriers now. Exercise barrier, motivational limitation, probably the number one reason in my line of work why athletes will drop out or just lose their energy or their zeal to rehab. I call that no call, no show. And social support is one of the ways we can overcome this barrier. And I just kind of went over it. Social support plays a huge role in an athlete's success, especially in rehab. They know the benefits and the value of the exercise and the rehab, but for some reasons, maybe the rehab is longer than they thought it would be. Maybe they don't feel like they're making gains like they should. Whatever the reason, social support is huge. So for all the reasons I just listed, when it comes to family, when it comes to friends, when it comes to teammates, when it comes to faculty and coaches, and myself as the athletic trainer, we need to provide social support to hopefully help them overcome these barriers. Unrealistic goals are set quite a bit. An athlete gets injured, they think it's going to take them 2 days to rehab and get better, when in reality it's going to take them 2.5 weeks. To overcome this barrier, I really need to sit with them and make sure they understand the importance of consistency. In the general population, research has said 4 to 6 weeks is about the time when individuals will start to see significant change. Well, in rehabilitation, athletic training, we don't know how long the timetable is going to be necessarily. It could be 2 weeks, it could be 2 months. Whatever that is, however many days it's going to be, it's consistency that is going to help them overcome these barriers. And a big part of that is as the pain begins to subside, as their range of motion becomes better, as they become stronger, as they begin to get back to a place where they can start doing things like they once used to, this helps. But consistency is where it starts. Another exercise barrier is the environmental factor. That's why I try to bring research states that recreational space may predict exercise activity. I try to bring my athletes into their arena, so to speak, when applicable, to bring them in onto the court, to take them out to the field, whatever sport it is that they're in, because then now they're in an environment where they thrive. They're in an environment where their teammates can see them. They're in an environment where their coaches can see them. And I think a lot of times athletes, they feed off of that. They want their coaches and their teammates to know, hey, I'm doing what it takes. I'm getting stronger. And oftentimes coaches and teammates will come and encourage the athlete that's rehabbing during practice and during rehab. So bringing them into a familiar place and another space helps to overcome these barriers. Group rehab is also, it's not always applicable. It's not always feasible, but there are times when maybe I'll have 3 ankle injuries that I'm rehabbing. I can take them into the gym together and we can rehab together. This brings a sense of relationship to these people, to this group. It brings a sense of camaraderie. They're encouraging each other, they're praising each other, and really motivating one another to get through the rehab and to get back to a place of health where they can go back to competition. So group rehab, when possible, is an amazing way, an effective way to overcome an exercise barrier. And finally, lack of time. Don't have a lot of time at the high school level. Kind of went over it already, but as long as the coach and I are on the same page, and as long as we're in communication, as long as the athlete knows when to come in for rehab, whenever that may be, this helps considerably to overcome that lack of time excuse, because we will set the time. We just all need to be on the same page. And when that happens, we overcome that barrier. My mission statement verse comes from Zechariah 4:6. It states, "This is the word of the Lord, not by might nor by power, but by my Spirit, says the Lord Almighty." I try to reiterate this to all my athletes, especially in rehab, and even when they're out of rehab, that it is nothing of our own ability or skill or that we do anything. It all comes from the Lord. So when they're in rehab, hey, pray for the Spirit of the Lord to give you the strength. When they're out of rehab and back competing, continue to pray for the Spirit of the Lord to be your strength, to be your power, all the time, every day, for the rest of your life. That's what I kind of live by, and that's what I try to encourage my athletes to live by as well. What I've learned in this course, too much, so much, an abundance of much. I thank you, Dr. Garrett, for your teaching style, first of all. It's great. It's such a breath of fresh air. And, I've just learned, I think the biggest thing I've learned here is how the mind can be such a determiner of what we do and what we don't do, how we can allow our minds to really drive us to a place that will hinder us or drive us to a place that will elevate us. And through all of these theories and basically everything I've poured into this presentation, those are like the main things that I'm going to take with me moving forward into my career as an athletic trainer and sports medicine director, because it's going to help immensely. So once again, thank you, Dr. Garrett, and thank you, class. I pray that y'all have a great Christmas, and this is my KIN 552 Critical Assignment 2019, and here are my references. Thank you, and God bless.